On July 19th, 1977, the world teacher, the Christ Maitreya, head of the spiritual hierarchy, emerged from his ancient retreat and is now in the modern world. With his disciples, the masters of the wisdom, he will inaugurate the new age of synthesis and brotherhood.
Good morning and welcome to our World Teacher programme on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM, presented by Teresa on behalf of Share International New Zealand. Today we present part 3 of Benjamin Creme's public lecture in New York City in 2001. If you visit YouTube, type Share International into the search box and then select Playlists, you'll find a selection of interviews and lectures featuring Mr. Creme. They're educational, entertaining and well worth a watch. Benjamin Creme begins with a description of the Antichrist and how the term is misunderstood, talks about Sai Baba and his relationship to Maitreya, and then finishes with a description of transmission meditation.
There's a complete and total misunderstanding about the Antichrist. The usual Christian idea of the Antichrist is that he is indeed the evil one, that he is someone who will come out into the world before the Christ comes into the world, at the end of the world. We've gone into that, haven't we? And he promises the earth, the moon, the stars to humanity. Is so sweet, so convincing, so delightful, so charming that he will take in even the elect. That's the ones who think that I am the spokesman for the Antichrist. They are the elect, the ones who really know the answers to all things. The Antichrist is not a man at all. It's an energy. It's an energy which is deliberately released by the Lord of the world. The Lord of the world is the reflection of that great heavenly man, the Logos of our planet. He manifests himself as a young man who came from the planet Venus 18.5 million years ago, when the human evolution started. He dwells, is the only word for it, he dwells in the highest spiritual center on this planet, which is called Shambhala, which is a great sphere of light, of etheric matter in the Gobi Desert. I mean, not on the ground, but in the air in the Gobi Desert. And there he is surrounded by great spiritual beings who administer this planet and the plan of evolution of the planet. About the energy we call wrongly the Antichrist. That is an energy which is released into the world by the Lord of the world at certain times. It's in Revelations of St. John. And John was talking about his own time. When the beast 666, the name of a man, the man was Nero, the Emperor Nero of Rome, who embodied that energy which we call the Antichrist. This was deliberately released to break down, it's a destructive energy which deliberately broke down the Roman dispensation to prepare the way for Christendom. It was released again in our day through Hitler, a group around him in Nazi Germany, 6 other equally or almost equally evil men, together with a group of militarists in Japan and a further group around Mussolini in Italy. These 3 powers, the Axis powers, in the war with the Allies from 1939 to 45, was a war literally between the forces of light, which is a spiritual hierarchy with Maitreya at its head, and they stood behind the Allies for the course of the war, and the Axis powers who embodied the Antichrist forces. Not only their evil, but the evil of all humanity from the very beginning. That destructive energy was released and has ended in the defeat of the Axis powers in the war from 39 to 45, and that gave Maitreya the opportunity to return to the earth. It is no accident that it was precisely June 1945 that he announced his intention to return to the world. By the defeat of the Axis powers, the forces of evil, the forces of materiality, as the masters call them, the lords of materiality, who have a role to play. Their role is the upholding of the matter aspect of the planet. And if they did that only, there would be no evil involved. They are on the involutionary arc, we are on the evolutionary arc. And unfortunately, they are not content with the involutionary arc. Their work overflows onto the evolutionary arc, so it is inimical to our spiritual progress and must be countered, which it is, by the hierarchy of masters. Humanity cannot do it for itself. It doesn't even know it's happening. And in this way, the hierarchy protect humanity from too great an overflow of evil into the planet. There's more than enough already. By the defeat of the Axis powers, who are not destroyed, but they are defeated, the hierarchy is enabled to return to the world. It's the exteriorization on the physical plane of the work of the hierarchy, which has already been going on the inner planes from time immemorial, for 18.5 million years. The return on the physical plane of his group, of himself and his group, for the first time in 98,000 years. Before that, the masters worked openly in the world. At the end of the Atlantean age, there was a war between the forces of light and the forces of darkness, which ended in a kind of stalemate. But it meant that the masters retreated into the mountains and deserts of the world, where their successors are to this day. And now they are beginning to come into the world. So the Antichrist is something very different from what people think. It is not an evil man who could be mistaken for the Christ. It is evil indeed, or rather destructive energy, which is necessary to prepare the way for the Christ. It prepares the way for the building forces, which are the Christ forces, and prepared for the new age. The aim and work of hierarchy during this age, the age of Aquarius, is to lift humanity above the level where they can be contacted and used by the forces of evil, as they're called, the lords of materiality. And this is done, this is called sealing off the forces of evil to their own domain. In the Great Invocation, some of which of you will know it, there is a line which says, "And may it seal the door where evil dwells." That door where evil dwells is the door between that where the hierarchy of masters live and that where the forces of materiality live, upholding correctly the material of the world, but if they do more than that, it becomes evil, and they work through every means that they can to manifest that evil. They will be sealed off in this coming age to their own domain, and then in the middle of the next stage, the Capricornian age, there will be another great war. The forces of evil will be released again. The beast 666 will be unchained for a time and half a time, that is the age of Aquarius, and half a time, half the age of Capricorn. And they will be released then, once again. There'll be another great war. It will be fought out now on mental planes. It's been fought out on the astral plane for 98,000 years. It has been fought out on the physical plane from 1914 to 1945, and then will be fought out on mental plane, and end in the complete destruction of the forces of evil on this planet. Then our planetary logos will take an initiation, which is not possible until that date. So you can see the Antichrist is something totally different from the usual fundamentalist Christian idea of him. Is Sai Baba one of the masters? Well, the answer is no. He is not. He is not a member of our present earth humanity. He's a visitor. He's what's generally called an avatar. An avatar is one who comes from beyond, comes into the world, usually drawn into the world by the needs of the world to serve the world in a particular way as an avatar, a teacher, to release higher energy and so on. And the question is Sai Baba one of the masters? No. On the other hand, he works with Maitreya, I don't know every day, but he works with him in a general sense. And this question is often put as in the form of, what is the relationship between Maitreya and Sai Baba? And the relationship is that they both embody the energy of love. They are both Christs. Maitreya is a planetary Christ. It's quite extraordinary. This not very evolved planet in the middle of the fourth round has evolved a Christ. It's a very exceptional happening to create a Christ. Other planets, for instance Mars, which is at the same level in the middle of the fourth round, is more or less at the same point in evolution as Earth, has not created a Christ. It has a fantastic evolution. We see it in the UFOs, most of which are made on Mars and come from Mars and do the work of succor for Earth, cleansing our planet of the muck which we pour into the air and cause death and destruction to ourselves. The space people, not only the Martians, but the Martians in particular, do a great deal of salvage in our atmosphere with the use of their UFOs, which we of course don't believe in. Sai Baba is an embodiment of the Christ principle from a cosmic point of view. Maitreya is an embodiment of the Christ principle from the planetary point of view. So he's a planetary Christ. Sai Baba is not of our Earth evolution. Maitreya is of our Earth evolution. He began so many million years ago you would not believe it. You would not believe how old he is. But in the earlier Atlantean race, he took what was then the highest of the planetary initiations, which today is only the third of the 5 initiations. And that was 8 million years ago. So, you know the kind of man we're dealing with. Sai Baba is in a human body, obviously a male body, but a human body, but is not a human in the ordinary sense, not an earth human. He is a human in the fact that he's in a human body, but he comes from elsewhere as an avatar into the world. Maitreya is not in a human body. He's in a self-created body. It's homemade, he made it himself. And Master just said, go on. Go on, before I say something else. But he is out of the human evolution, although he is in this self-created body. These two great beings work together all the time. They spread the love of God to all who can absorb it and use it. And they are creating a new heaven. It is our job to create the new earth.
You're listening to the World Teacher Programme on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM. Benjamin Creme continues.
Would you please describe the process of transmission meditation? Transmission meditation was initiated by my master and introduced by me to the world. The first transmission meditation group was formed in London in March 1974. So it's been going from that time. There are now hundreds of transmission meditation groups all over the world, in almost every country of the world. It's a group meditation that provides a field of service, second to none as service, and at the same time it is not possible to do it without receiving enormous benefit in doing it. So it's this quid pro quo. You give up a certain amount of time to be in a transmission meditation group, who they meet once or twice or 3 times a week, and you meet once or twice or 3 times. Some do 3 times, some twice, some once. And this allows the masters to use that group to send through their energies. The masters are the recipients of energies from cosmic, from solar and extraplanetary sources, and their job is to send certain of these energies into the world in a form, in a way, and at a voltage, if you like, a level that can actually be absorbed, used by humanity. If they were to send the energy from the constellations, say from the sun and so on, from extraplanetary levels, it would be at the level that they receive it, it would be too high. If they sent it straight into the world, it would be so high, it would simply bounce off the mass of humanity and do little or no good. So they have to step it down. Now, transmission meditation is connected to 2 things. To the realization of oneself as a soul, which is the purpose of meditation. Whatever else a meditation does for you, meditation, any meditation, will eventually bring you into contact with your soul. And when you make soul contact, you immediately begin to want to serve in some way, because the nature of the soul is to serve. It's the soul who desires to serve, not the personality in any given life. The personality may or may not serve once the soul is contacted, and if it has any sense, it will take up some form of service, because if you do, things tend to go right in the world. Your health tends to be better, you begin to organize more correctly your life pattern, and you are more in charge, you have more control of your particular manifestation as a man or a woman and in that life. And the disciple, as you become, is known, seen, recognized by his control over his environment. By environment, I mean all that happens to him, his job, his work, his ability to work for the plan and so on. All of that I take to be the environment. The initiate is known by the quality and the extent of his world service. So you can see, well, that person must be initiate, that person must be a disciple. You can tell by the quality of the life which they demonstrate, roughly, only roughly, where people are in the plan and the scheme of things. Transmission meditation is given to the world at this time because only now are people beginning who are mentally polarized sufficiently to work with the masses in this way. Using the religious groups of all kinds, all religions, during these ceremonies and rituals and so on, the masses have been hampered by the fact that the bulk of the people in the groups are astrally polarized, and so the energy released always went out on the astral plane. They wish always to go higher onto the mental plane, onto the spiritual planes, and of course that will come. But that start is being made in transmission meditation, in which more people who are at least beginning to become mentally polarized are joining, creating and joining transmission meditation groups, and the masters therefore have a rather better vehicle with which to work. They can put the energy out, and some of it, of course, will go out on the astral plane, but more and more the energy can be released on the mental plane and do its work on the mental plane, and therefore have a greater, more powerful effect on the life of humanity. And that's why it is only now that transmission meditation has been created. It goes hand in hand with the reappearance of the Christ in the world and the return to the world of the esoteric hierarchy. The energies of the masses are sent through the groups. Now, if a group is it's sent, the mechanism is that of the science of triangles. Every triangle potentizes the amount of energy sent through that triangle. Now, most groups are more than 3 people, and the more people there are, the more powerful the group is, the more energy can safely be placed through the group. If you have 3 people, you have 1 triangle. Add 1 more person, 4 people, you've suddenly 4 triangles. Add 1 more, 5, you've suddenly 10 triangles. 5 more people, that's 10 people, you've suddenly 120 triangles, and so on in arithmetical progression. It's an extraordinary science, and it makes for the ability to get the utmost out of every ounce of energy that the masters can safely transmit through the group. So you become a transmitter. That's what a transmission meditation is. It's a transmitter. And the group become transmitters. The energies are sent through the chakras, usually the heart, the throat, and the 2 head chakras, the one between the eyebrows and one at the top of the head. And in this way, they're automatically stepped down. They're brought down to a level which sent out by the masters, not by the people involved, but by the masters through the people, out to wherever they are needed in the world. They are altogether more powerful at a lower level than would otherwise be the case. So it's an act of service to the hierarchy. It is also a kind of practice, if you like, for working with the hierarchy of masters. As I have said, the masters are coming into the world. There are already 14 plus Maitreya in the world. Eventually there will be about 40 masters over a number of years. And their aim is to work closely with humanity, not as sort of high people who can never be approached, but in a close cooperative working relationship insofar as what they can teach us can be understood, and insofar as they have obviously worked with the more advanced, more gifted people in the first place, but gradually their aim is to lift humanity to a level where a true cooperative relationship can be maintained. And this gives people practice in working with hierarchy in this way, and get to know the intensity of the process, of the working ability of the masters. The masters work 24 hours of the day. They never sleep, they never eat, they just work. It's extraordinary. Jog occasionally.
And that's it for today. Tune in to our next World Teacher programme on Saturday the 14th of July at our usual time of 10 a.m. If you would like more information on the emergence of the World Teacher and the Masters of Wisdom, we can highly recommend two of Benjamin Creme's recent books, The World Teacher for All Humanity and its companion, The Awakening of Humanity. They're available to read online or download free from the share-international.org website. However, if you prefer the paperback editions, you can order by phoning 04 234 1133 or write to P.O. Box 9576 Wellington. We can also post or email our free-of-charge monthly newsletter, which contains a small selection of articles from the Share International magazine. That number again is 04 234 1133. You have been listening to Teresa on behalf of Share International New Zealand. You can listen again to this podcast and previous ones by visiting our new library at shareinternationalnewzealand.wordpress.com and click on the radio tab.